There's a number I think about a lot, not $1 million, something way smaller than that. Because the truth is, my life doesn't change when I hit $1 million. It changes way before that. There are specific portfolio values where something really unlocks, where the math shifts, where the strategy starts actually working, where I go from just building to actually using what I built. Welcome back to another episode of Almost Wealthy. I'm at about 7,400 right now, and today I want to walk you through the exact numbers that matter. Every milestone, not just the final designation, but every milestone where something in my actual life changes, because I think most people focus on the wrong number. So everyone says build to $1 million. Okay, cool. But that's like telling someone to drive from Miami to Seattle and only caring about Seattle. You still need to know when you're going to hit Atlanta, when you're going to cross into Texas, or when you get too close to Albuquerque. My strategy is to buy, borrow, die. The whole idea is I grow a portfolio, I borrow against the assets instead of selling, and my dividends cover the interest on what I borrow. Eventually, I will never need to sell anything, but that doesn't switch on at $1 million. There are stages, and each stage changes what I actually do. So here they are. Okay, now let's start at 10,000, the first number that actually means something. With M1, you can borrow up to 50% of your portfolio value. I'm not saying borrow the full 50% because that would be reckless, but the ability is there. The infrastructure is live. The margin rate at M1 is 5.65% annually, and $10,000, you can technically borrow up to $5,000, 50%. LTV is the max, but I'm targeting something like 12%, around $1,200. That's not life-changing money, but it proves the model works. And honestly, just knowing the account is margin eligible feels real different. It's not just a savings account anymore. It's a borrow machine that also happens to be growing. My blended portfolio yield right now is 5.33%. And on $10,000, that's about $533 a year in dividends. At 12% LTV, a 12% 100 loan, the interest is about $68 a year. Dividends cover that more than 7 times over. The math works at $10,000. Now we're at $30,000. $30,000 is where it starts to get genuinely interesting. At $30,000 with a 12% LTV, I can borrow around $3,600. At a 5.65% interest rate, that's about $203 per year. My dividend income on $30,000 at 5.33% is roughly $1,600 per year. $1,600 in, $203 out. That's a net of about $1,396 a year. A real spread. I'm not living off this, but I can use it to cover something specific, like a car payment, gym membership, subscription stack, a utility bill. Now that's a different feeling. Now we're at 100,000. 100,000 is a number I think about the most right now because it feels close enough to aim at, but far enough to respect. At $100,000, 12% LTV is about $12,000 I can borrow. Interest at 5.65%, that is around $678 a year, and that's about $56 a month. Dividend income at the 5.33 is $5,333 annually, pretty much $5,300 in, $678 out. That's around $4,600 a year in net yield after borrowing costs, $388 a month just in dividends after interest. And if I need to actually borrow more, say I bump it up to 20% LTV, that's $20,000 borrowed, around $1,100 in interest, still leaving over $4,000 annually for dividends. I could cover a car payment with that. I can cover a large chunk of rent for that, or maybe a mortgage. $100,000 is also when the compounding starts to feel really fast, means the profile is growing at a pace that's hard to ignore. This is where I go from I'm building something to I can feel this thing working. Now we're at $500,000, which changes psychologically. At $500,000 with a 12% LTV, I got about $60,000 available to borrow. Interest on that at 5.65% is about $3,390 a year, which comes out to $283 a month. Dividend income on the 5.33% at $500K is just a little over $26,000 a year. So pretty much $26,000 a year in and $3,300 out, just a little over $23,000 a year, about $1,900 a month, which is amazing. That's a real income stream. That's not supplemental. That's livable in some cities, especially if I have other income on top of that. And importantly, I haven't sold a single share to get here. The portfolio is still intact, still compounding. The interest is the only cost, and it's covered. At $500,000, the strategy isn't theoretical anymore. It's just my financial life. So now we're at what I call the end game, which is the goal is to get to $1 million. 12% LTV is $120,000 available. Interest at 5.6% is $6,780 a year, and that is about $565 a month. Dividend income at 5.33% on $1 million is just a little over $53,000 a year. Net income after borrowing costs is around just a little over $46,000 a year, about $3,877 a month, and the portfolio is still there, still growing, still untouched. That's the end game. At my current yield, I borrow and the dividends cover the interest with room left over. The portfolio stays intact. The portfolio keeps compounding. I never trigger a taxable sell, never touch principal. My actual target is more conservative, $40,000 a year in borrowing, which means my break even is lower than $1 million. But $1 million is a clean number where my strategy has full room to breathe. At any borrowing level, I'd actually use. So where am I at now? My portfolio right now is sitting at $7,400 in portfolio value, and that's it. That's where I'm starting this episode. I'm not at 10,000 yet. I'm not at 30,000, and I'm miles from 100,000. But here's what matters. I know exactly what each number unlocks. I'm not just grinding towards some abstract goal. I'm building towards a specific machine, and I know what I can do at every stage. At 10,000, the margin starts turning up. At 30,000, the portfolio pays for something real, beyond just a few bills. At 100,000, real monthly income compounding starts to get very loud. At 500,000, livable income, strategies fully proven. At $1 million, which I call the end game, that's when everything starts to really take off. That's the roadmap. I know where I am on it, and I'm posting every week so you can watch every step. So if this clicked for you, drop the number you're currently at in the comments or the milestone you're aiming for first. I'm curious to see where people are at. Subscribe if you want to follow along. I don't hide the months where nothing's moving or when the market drops. It's all here every week. This is Almost Wealthy. We're not there yet, but the math is laid out and we're building towards it. See you on the next one.